Alrighty then, welcome to the August 19th, 2024 meeting of the Carver School Committee. If everyone could please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So up first, we have comments from the EAPC, and it looks like we have Tom Pinto with us. Welcome, Tom.
Can Tom not hear? Tom, can you hear us?
Can you hear us? See, he is muted. Let me see.
Oh, there we go. We can hear you.
Okay, I couldn't hear you guys earlier.
Okay. Welcome.
Scott and Ron, long time no see. Virtually right now. I do want to really thank you both for advocating for the Insurance Advisory Committee. And I want to thank the new town manager, Glenn, for meeting with us today. I think we had a great conversation, and I believe we're moving in the right direction going forward. I am excited to actually be able to participate in opening day. It's been a few years since I've been able to do so, so I will be there bright and early on Monday. And like I think I told people early, it is my wedding anniversary, so that will be it for me tonight, but I will be listening, I promise.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you for joining us. Okay, so that brings us to comments from the general public. We do not have anyone in the room with us, and I do not believe we have anyone on Zoom. So I'm going to close the comments from the general public portion of our meeting and move on to the approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes up for approval tonight.
Okay. I move that we approve the June 10th, 2024 open session meeting minutes.
I second.
Do you want to bundle?
No,
Should
do
we
them separate.
do them separately? Okay, great. We have a motion and a second for June 10th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve the June 25th, 2024 open session minutes.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That brings us to communications.
Okay, so we were notified after our last meeting at the end of June that the district has been selected for what's called a district review from the Department of Education, Elementary and Secondary Education. It's a review that happens every so many years. The DESE will select 15 to 20 school districts per year. My understanding this year is 15 districts have been selected. I believe our last district review was in 2015. It's not like a NIAS review or an IAC. It's not cyclical. It doesn't happen every 10 years. They just go through districts and they make sure over a, generally what I've seen, 5 to 15 year period, everyone gets selected. So it's been almost 10 years, so it makes sense that we would be up. I was notified just last week that we've been selected for what they call a targeted review. A targeted review means they're not going to do all of the standards. So you can either have a comprehensive review where they come and analyze you against all of the DESE standards, or you can have a targeted review. There are 6 standards. The standards are leadership and governance, human resources and professional development, financial and asset management, curriculum and instruction, assessment, and student supports. We have not yet been notified which standards are part of our targeted review. And my understanding from the initial meeting we had last week is that we're actually going to be able to play a role in deciding which of the standards we look at. So supposedly I'm going to be receiving a survey in the next couple weeks that I'll go through the administrative team, and then based on our survey results and our thoughts on the process, they'll let us know which standards we're going to be held against. And they've actually just revised all the standards, and they were just approved by the governor. So I have a meeting, I believe it's this Thursday, to go over the new standards. But ultimately, this is a compliance. They're looking at all of the DESE guidelines and regulations under each of those 6 standards. And then how does the district do in carrying out those standards? And then they'll give you feedback, constructive feedback on what ways you can better meet all of DESE's standards and regulations. There's not a rating system. You don't come out of the district review with a a rank or a rating, or it just says you come up with a written report. You can actually go to the DESE website if you're interested and look at Carver's last district review from 2015. And you can look at, they have every district in the Commonwealth, and you can go in and see who had a review it a year ago, who had it 10 years ago, who had it 12 years ago, and then look at whether they had a comprehensive report or a targeted report. So at this point, I don't know much more about the process. Part of the district review does have an on-site visit. So they will be here for 3 or 4 days at an undetermined time yet. And they'll be visiting classrooms, meeting with parents, meeting with teachers, meeting with staff. So it is fairly comprehensive. And my understanding is that I will also have, or the district will also have, some say in when the review is, in terms of, they don't just say to us, okay, we're going to come out the first week in May. They work with you, and they want to try to, they were actually advocating, not saying, and I talked to the administrative team about this a little bit, we're not necessarily sold here yet. They were actually advocating that they were looking for a targeted district to do it early, maybe in November. So I don't know, I guess we have to, I want to find out what standards we're going to be assigned to, what the requirements are. It used to be a pretty heavy lift from the standpoint of you had to produce all kinds of documentation, right? But the reality is we've become so much more digitized, and we actually send DESE so much information. So through our student information system, through Aspen, we're constantly communicating with DESE, and they made it seem like it's a little more streamlined, that they just actually pull a lot of your data right from your own reporting that you do all the time. So even different from 2015. We're just in a different place digitally in terms of having documents. So we do remember in 2015, like it was literally, we had files. Meredith did a lot of work on that review, and she remembers the central office room downstairs filled with files, and everything was printed, and it was a fairly heavy lift from that perspective. So we're hoping that's not the case. And from my initial meeting with them, my understanding is it will be a lot, that they'll be able to pull a lot of data. Obviously, there's still going to be things we're going to have to produce and collate and put together. So really, we want to get a better understanding of what the expectations are, of what we have to actually be able to produce that would make a determination if we wanted to go earlier in the year versus later in the year. Because doing it necessarily in March or April or May isn't always the greatest time because of all the testing that's happening and MCAS, and that it's just another thing that would be happening at that time of the year. So the ALT team had some interest in going early if it made sense for us. So more information to come, but I just wanted the committee and the community to be aware that we have been selected for a district review, and there'll be an on-site visit coming, and as I gather more information, I'll report back to the committee on the process and what it's going to look like. I do believe they also, I'm sure they're going to look to speak to members of the school committee and have a meeting with members of the school committee when we get to that point.
Sounds good. Great, thank you for the update.
I want me to go right into personnel updates?
Yeah, reports
So-
from the superintendent.
Obviously, since the last time we met, it's been a few weeks, we've had a lot of transition in terms of new hires and transfers, so we have been doing a lot of interviewing this summer. And it's actually really across the board. So it's been kind of for teachers, for custodians, for bus drivers, for food service. So that's been a lot of the work that's been happening over the past few weeks. So I'll just go through the list. I will say that many of the people on the new hires list are people who have worked for us before, or a few people who have worked for us before in a different capacity, but then decided to come back in terms of lunchroom monitors and ESPs. And then also we have a decent number of transfers as well, people looking to take advantage of different opportunities within the district. So our new hires, James Alfieri is a lunchroom monitor. He's a returner. He left and decided to come back. Eric Baldwin as a math teacher at the middle high school. Courtney Barrington as an ESP special education at the elementary school. Tiffany Clancy as an ESP in special education at the middle high school. Melissa Cordero as a special education teacher for our Delta program at the middle high school. Sarah Grabowski as the school psychologist at the middle high school. Dana Griffin as a split shift custodian at the elementary school. Ryan Harding as a our new ML teacher at the middle high school and elementary school. That's actually going to be a district-wide position. Majority of it will be at the middle high school, but there'll be a percentage at the elementary school because we just have a little bit higher ML load there. Paula Keene-Smith is a 7D bus driver. Cara Martina is a kindergarten teacher at the elementary school. Megan McDavitt as a special education teacher in kindergarten at the elementary school. Devin Morrissey is a first grade teacher at the elementary school. Sarah Olivia as a long-term sub art teacher for Sue Wally. Sue Wally's going to be out for a term. She had to have a surgery, so she's going to miss the first term. So Sarah will be the art teacher at the middle school level. Jody Richards-Alt is an ESP in special education at the elementary school. Jennifer Phillips in food service at the elementary school. Darcy Roberts in food service at the middle high school. John Safraza, long-term substitute teacher in special education and our GAP program at the middle high school. John worked for us for many years and is coming back for a year to cover a one-year transfer. So we're excited to have John back in the district. Maureen Shirkus, who's worked for us before, is an office clerk at the elementary school. James Smith is a teacher in special education at the elementary school. Melanie Sullivan is an ESP in special education at the elementary school, and Ben Vitale as an ESP at the middle high school and also in the assistant athletic director role. So those are all our new hires that we're going to welcome next week when we return to school. We did have some transfers. Tammy Burke from an ESP pre-K to an ESP special education at the elementary school. Alexander Cordero, she was our long-term sub last year for Dave Aruda, and she's actually taken the physics position. So Dave is returning full-time, and Alex is going to be the physics teacher at the middle high school. Elizabeth Goodwin transferred from ML to an English teacher at the middle high school. Brooke Bishop from special education teacher to English teacher. Alexis Falco from special education teacher at the middle high school to an ESP in special ed at the elementary school. Jen Lyman is just going from grade 2 to grade 4 at the elementary school. Kim Harkins is going from grade 4 to grade 3 at the elementary school. Rebecca Perry is an ESP staying in the ESP role but a different position in the book collection. So she'll be managing the book collection at the elementary school. Kerry Verdon from administrative assistant at the security desk to an administrative assistant in the main office. And Jen Toomey from office clerk to administration, and she'll be doing the security desk at the elementary school. And then our resignations that led, obviously there's a lot more transfers and new hires than our resignations because some of those resignations happened prior to our last meeting. Shannon Alzheimer, ESP kindergarten at the elementary school. Casey Brown is a speech and language therapist assistant at the elementary school. Madeline French is a 5th grade teacher at the elementary school. Victoria Gordon, food services at the middle high school. Stephanie King as a special education teacher in grade 5 at the elementary school. Christina Lyerly as an ESP in special education at the elementary school. Bethany McCarthy, food services at the elementary school. Lauren Ovian as an ESP pre-K at the elementary school. Christine Riley as a teacher of special education and former TVI at the middle high school. Ben Shafane as a math teacher at the middle high school. And Kevin Thompson as an ESP in the book collection. Our 2 teaching positions that are still vacant is the 5th grade teacher and the 5th grade special ed teacher. We're doing interviews for those positions this week. We'll be meeting with finalists, and hopefully we'll be offering a position to someone in each of those spots this week, and we'll be fully staffed for the first day of school next week. So that's an update on our staff movement since we last met in June.
Great. Thank you very much. That brings us to professional development review by Dr. Meredith Erickson.
Thank you. So I'm just going to really quickly detail the plans for our 2 professional development days that we have next week. And I think if there was a take-home message from it, it would be that when Mr. Neef presents our educational blueprint, that there's a hefty amount of work that we're all engaged in to try to continue to strengthen and improve Carver Public Schools and make them the best that they can be. And that work doesn't happen in isolation. A lot of it happens during professional development time, and what a gift that can be for administrators and for teacher leaders that are helping to move that work along. So when we get to the blueprint, you'll hear some of the buzzwords that I am going to share regarding the first 2 days of school. So per tradition, we're going to welcome staff back next Monday morning, and there will be breakfast served, and then Mr. Neef will give his district-wide welcome, which is always inspiring and gets us started on the right foot. And then each building breaks into their faculty meetings so that they can have an opportunity to just talk about operational aspects and make sure that everybody is squared away for the first day of school. And then that afternoon, we don't have professional development plan because teachers contractually actually get that half day to set up their classrooms. And administration in each building will meet with ESPs, and it's a great opportunity to go through and do some knowledge transfer around really important issues like our bullying policy and our ALICE procedures and confidentiality and things like EpiPens, and making sure that that group of staff is well informed and that they understand the best practices that allow everyone to kind of contribute and have some coherence within each of the schools. So that will happen for the half day next Monday while teachers are in their classrooms setting up. On Tuesday, at the middle high school, there's some opportunity for our department chairs to work in their departments to, again, structure the year and outline not only the technical but the adaptive aspects of the work that they're doing. And then we'll transition into the middle high school's vision of the graduate and talk more about how that's being enacted in the school. And then later on in the afternoon, there is a carousel where teachers work through different stations, and Vision of the Graduate comes back there as we talk about how we're going to develop reporting mechanisms to report out to students on their progress and to engage families with that progress as well. We'll also be talking about promoting a positive school culture, and then have some training on the television screens that are touch boards and how to make sure that we're integrating technology, and also give an opportunity to make sure that students are enrolled in WIN and that we understand those procedures for the year ahead. And at the elementary school, we're going to continue our work on writing and making sure that teachers get training on fortifying our writing and writing in response to reading across the board. We also have the updated version in grades 3 through 5 of the Bridges math curriculum. So teachers will be getting a training on that. And then it's a great opportunity for some more integrated technology. So we were able to update the projectors in grades 4 and 5 over the summer. So thank you to the technology team for that heavy lift. And we have a trainer coming in from that company who's great, and he's going to make it very interactive and give teachers an opportunity to utilize the new technology, then go work in small groups and come back together and continue that. We also have the PE teachers that will be unpacking their new frameworks and looking at that component. And then a chance for our allied arts and our nurses and our counselors to get together and do some common planning around supporting students. In both buildings, in the afternoon, we are going to be having an update for special educators on the new IEP that the state has rolled out, and Melissa Leary will be helping roll that out with folks. And then for our ESPs, there will also be an opportunity for many of them to get a CPI refresher. So CPI is the format that we use for nonviolent crisis intervention, and that's basically a whole toolbox of skills you can use to de-escalate challenging behaviors and really support students as they learn to develop some self-regulation and that sort of thing. And the statistics about the impact of CPI are great. So it's something that we continue to commit to in our district and feel very strongly about. And despite all of this excellent work, we're also going to build in a little time for fun, and there will be a faculty barbecue to help everyone touch base and to connect after the summer in each building. So that's the outlook for the next first 2 days of School with Teachers.
And we'd certainly love members of the committee to come to opening day on Monday. If I realize it may, scheduling-wise, that may not work, but we do start 8 o'clock, breakfast at 8, 8:30, and then we'll do the kickoff from, around 8:30 to 10. It'd be great if you'd be able to make it. I think Stephanie is going to speak. As Tom said he's going to speak.
Yep.
So Tom will be representing the unions. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'll be great, thank you. I mean, it's too bad you guys don't have a lot going on. That is a lot of PD and a lot of good opportunities for team building, so thank you for sharing the plans. Okay, so I opened the educational blueprint already. So next we have an educational blueprint update,
Yep.
review.
Yeah, I'm just going to share it out if someone join us on Zoom and put it up on the screen, get a little bigger here. Okay. So the educational blueprint document is kind of our driving document for the district, and I always think it's good going into the school year to just do a review of that with the school committee, with the community, and then talk a little bit about maybe some of the changes or some of the things that are going to be real focus areas for us this year. And one of the things that I think you're going to see next month when I come forward with my goals, one of my goals is going to be around going through a process to review the educational blueprint. So this document was originally established when I first became superintendent in 2016. And so there are revisions that have happened to it over time. But I will say the thing that hasn't changed is kind of these is our core values and these core objectives, 4 core objectives. What's changed is the initiatives to support those objectives. And I do think it's time again for the community, including parents and students and teachers and staff, to kind of look at, are these things still representative of what we are and what we want to be about? So one of my goals this year will be take the district through a process to evaluate the educational blueprint. And maybe I've done that on a couple other occasions, and when I've done that, people have come back and said, no, we like these 4 objectives, they make sense to us. But I want to take the district through that process again. But I'll also take a moment to just kind of review the vision statement, the core values, and the strategic objectives. So sorry to read to you, but I will. The Carver community is dedicated to continuous improvement and will collaborate to promote high standards to ensure all students become empowered learners and responsible citizens through a comprehensive curriculum that inspires students to learn and think creatively in a safe, supportive, and inclusive environment. Our core values, all students can be successful. Learning is ongoing and lifelong. Decisions should be made in the best interest of students. Everyone should be treated with dignity and respect. School, home, and community partnerships are vital for the continuous learning and growth. And so we're saying that all our actions can tie back to one of these core values, and hopefully it's driving this vision of creating the tagline, which is down the bottom, of cultivating empowered learning and responsible citizenship. Ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want everybody, all of our students to graduate believing that they have the skills that are necessary to be learners. And that's really a huge focus right now in education. And some of the initiatives you're going to see us start talking about, and even some of the work we've done district-wide in terms of what the educational nomenclature right now, the buzzword is deeper learning. And I don't want to dismiss it as a buzzword, but there's a lot of discussion about what is deep in learning. And I want to say it's something that we've wanted to be about and tried to be about. It's that whole idea of deeper learning is empowered learning. In that it's a little bit of a shift away from content towards learning skills, because ultimately the content is ever accessible. That's something that's changed since we all went to school. And I know you've all heard these things before, that the content is at our fingertips. You could ask me about anything right now if I really wanted to. I could search up and probably give you a fairly good answer about that thing in terms of the content, right? So the skills that we need to be teaching students are how do you evaluate that content? How do you use that content to create new knowledge? How do you use that content to become a creative thinker? How do you use that content to collaborate and work effectively with others? These are kind of the key skills. And what do our classrooms look like to make sure that we're doing that? And that's really our goal, is this whole concept of that's what an empowered learner is. They believe they can learn in any situation. So that 20 years from now, when things are totally different, they'll have the skills to be able to adapt and be successful in that environment. You know, and right now that pace is ever quicker, how things change. You know, and so going back to us and how we learned and how school was, you know, I'm not going to ask around the table, but I'll ask in theory to the community. You know, many of you might be working a job that didn't exist when you went to school. Superintendent existed. My job existed. But I won't go around the room and say, did your job exist before when you went to school? Maybe in some shape or form, or maybe it's totally different. And we have to be thoughtful of that process of, you know, our students who are in school now, 20, 30 years from now, they might be working jobs that just don't exist right now. We don't know what they are yet. But they have to have a set of skills that allows them to adapt and learn and communicate and be, and that's what we want. The second piece of that is certainly we want to build responsible citizens. We want to build kind of community and community members and people who want to be part of that larger community and are really responsible citizens, responsible to mankind and to others. I'm talking about huge ideas here. And that's the most important thing. And that is a change a little bit. And it's a shift we've been undergoing for many years. You know, when I was principal at the middle high school, I would give this a similar, the words were a little different, but the concepts were the same of, we just need to believe. We want to create students who can believe they can learn in any situation. And I always said, I believe that through my education, I became an empowered learner. I used to say this to students. I don't know a lot of things. My knowledge level is pretty small, you know, but I believe put in a situation and trained, I could learn anything. And that's what we want our students to be able to do. We want them to believe that they can go into any situation and be successful. Sorry. So that's where we're going. That's where we want this to happen. So how do we do that? You know, so what are our objectives? We want to support safe schools. And safety here is not just about physical safety, so that's a huge component of it. It's about a social, emotional, and well-being. So we want to sustain safe and supportive, inclusive learning environments and ensure that we are addressing the physical, social, and emotional behavioral needs of all our students to maximize their capacity to achieve, to be successful. We want to engage the community. And we want, ultimately, that's a huge piece of this. We need to foster relationships with the community so parents and members of the community are engaged and partners in the educational process. And I think that's something we always need to be improving. We always need to be improving our communication, our outreach, our connection with families. And that's something certainly we want to be doing. Enhancing teaching and learning. We want to sustain a system-wide environment where exceptional instruction and student achievement are the core of our work and realized through collaborative action. And then last one, you know, leverage leadership policy and funding to strategically support the school community with mindful leadership and sustainable funding to ensure the highest level of student achievement through well-managed resources. And when we first came up with that language, it was to say, look, sometimes there are times where Carver has limited resources, and we have to do the best we can to manage those resources and allocate them in the way that's going to best support students. And sometimes that's a challenging task. And that's really a task put before the administration. It's a task put before the school committee to ensure that we're doing that. And to make that public statement of, that's what we're trying to do. And there might be people who disagree on how effectively we do that. But that's the mission, that's the goal, is to, and to put that out there and say, this is what we want to do. We want to make sure we're managing our resources the most effective way we can to support students. You know, then what happens is these kind of 4 goals drive the school improvement plans. And most of the initiatives that you will see here tie directly back to the school improvement plans that were presented in June.
Yep.
So when Christine came in and went through her whole school improvement plan, and Marie came in and went through her whole school improvement plan. And then those school improvement plans are reflective in terms of the strategies, the initiatives that we're going to carry out. And in terms of the changing of the document, that's what changes the most in this document, is the initiatives are changing. And even sometimes based on language, like looking at support safe schools, this one jumped out at me at this moment. You know, embrace culturally and linguistically sustaining practices. That's actually tied to, they've changed the rubric for teachers, the teaching rubric, and the language has changed a little bit. So the language has gone to culturally and linguistic sustaining practices. That's what teachers have to be thinking about and thinking about the whole community of all the students who are in front of them, and make sure they're meeting the needs of all those students. Certainly, the last couple of years, we've had a little bit of a focus on maintaining and creating additional student advisory councils to increase student voice. And that's work that's going to be ongoing that we're going to continue to do. I'm trying to pull out a couple things that have actually language in here changed a little bit. Engage the community, develop and maintain partnerships with local businesses and organizations to support school-wide initiatives. It's actually something we've done a lot of in the last couple of years, especially through Pathways. But I think we have to even go beyond the connection we've been trying to make with the community and businesses through Pathways to support the entire district and maybe make some more connections at the elementary level. We added increased vertical collaboration throughout the district in terms of enhancing teaching and learning. A little bit of, let's make sure that we're looking in K-12 to make sure that our curriculum is vertically aligned and that there's a progression that makes sense for our students in terms of the path and the sequence that they're following. And do a little bit of analysis of that. So we're going to take some time this year to do some analysis of where we stand in terms of those things. So ultimately, our goal comes back to this bottom statement, this tagline of we want as a district to be cultivating empowered learning and responsible citizenship. We're going to do it through these kind of like 4 core objectives of supporting safe schools, engaging our community, enhancing teaching and learning, and leveraging leadership, policy, and funding. Thank you for taking, as I said, I wanted to take a couple minutes just to review this with the committee and the community and say that we're going to go through a process this year to look at those objectives and say, are those still our core objectives? And maybe that process comes out with it there. Maybe there isn't. Maybe something needs to be changed, revised, or change our focus a little bit. So that is my kind of overview and summary of the educational blueprint to start the school year.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you for reviewing that and for the work that is about to be done. I know it's a
There's a lot of things there.
living, breathing document. Yeah, a lot of work will go into that, so thank you for that as well. Okay, so that brings us to the Wellness Committee review.
Yep. So in June, we discussed the possibility, the committee discussed the possibility of establishing a wellness subcommittee. And at that time, we said, well, there is actually a wellness committee that met a year ago. It didn't meet for a year, and develop a wellness plan. Then I would come back and kind of present what the work that group had done and talk a little bit about where we'd be going in the future. So that's my goal. I just want to share my screen. I'm not sure if there's anybody out there in Zoom land, but we'll share the screen just in case.
There is not.
And then we'll also get it up on the board here. Oh, not too fast. All right. So we had a wellness committee. These were our members of the wellness committee. You can see it was representatives from parents, the administration, teachers, counselors, Deputy Fire Chief Boyle, the nurses. Jackie was a parent representative at that time on the wellness committee. So this was the group that had met to review the wellness plan now almost a year and a half ago. So in the wellness committee, in essence, the wellness plan has 4 goals in it. And I figured I'd mention what those 4 goals are. And then we can talk a little bit about the focus of those goals. So first one was develop lifelong skills and habits that focus on wellness as an essential part of the comprehensive learning environment. Right. Second, create more opportunities for students to engage in physical activities to promote movement and exercise. Third, support and promote balanced dietary habits that contribute to students' health and academic success. And the fourth one was promote safe and supportive schools for all students and staff. I will say historically, the Wellness Committee has met over time. It's met periodically. It's supposed to meet, in theory, 4 times a year. But I will say that the district has not regularly done that. And every 3 years, the district has to update its wellness plan with the Department of Education. And I will say historically, that's when the district has put the wellness committee together, is to review the plan in the 3-year cycle. But from our discussions, I certainly feel like there's an interest in the school committee, and it makes sense that the wellness committee should meet its charge and meet regularly each school year. So my goal will be to bring this wellness committee back together this fall. I'll go back to the people who were members of the committee and reach out and say, would you like to continue as members of the committee? And in terms of our staff, everybody who's there on the staff is still here, so it's still the same staff, so I'll reach out to all of them. We can talk about Jackie, who was obviously on as a parent representative, and the committee can make a decision. We can, if you want to have a school committee representative, if Jackie stays in that role, or if you don't want to nominate someone else to just represent. But I'll bring the group back together. And, well, since I brought that up, I don't know if we want to go off and have that discussion now, or...
What did everyone think?
And Jackie, would you like to stay?
I could stay, but if somebody else wants the opportunity, I have no problem with it.
I have no problem with Jackie staying.
Okay.
It's good to me.
No, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Jackie, looks like if you'd like to, you stay as the...
So will you add an additional parent, or will?
Yeah, I'll reach out to these parents and see if they're interested in continuing, and then, depending on that, I'll reach out to the community as a whole and see if other parents are
Okay.
interested in participating.
Okay, great.
And then I'll look to get some more students too, because we just had we ended up with only one student. We put it out to some students,
Yep.
but if we're going to meet more regularly, we can get some more student involvement too from maybe even one student ambassador.
Great.
A sixth grade, middle school student, and a high school student.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The other thing I want to go back to these 4 goals. When the concept of having a wellness plan was enacted and required by DESE, the focus was definitely more on goal number 3, supporting and promoting balanced dietary habits that contribute to students' health and academic success. And if you remember during the Obama administration, they actually changed the requirements in terms of what could be served in food, and it was a kind of an overhaul of what was allowed in the school cafeteria. And that kind of prompted the development of these wellness committees and saying, look, we have to take a comprehensive look at what we're serving and make sure it meets the new federal guidelines and making sure that we're promoting students having a healthy lifestyle. So the focus really became around this concept of diet. And then the second focus really came to creating more opportunities for students to engage in physical activities that promote movement and exercise, and more regular participation in phys ed, and maybe more some of those activities outside of the phys ed classroom, right? And then I would probably say the third was develop lifelong skills and habits to focus on wellness. Saying this thing of, you're gonna become a healthy person, you're gonna make good decisions, you're gonna learn how to eat well, you're gonna learn that movement and exercise is good, and now you're gonna develop these habits that's gonna carry on into your life. So in terms of the history of the plan and the implementation of the plan, I think the least amount of focus was put on promote safe and supportive schools for all students and staff. Right. But I think that's an area that we're interested in developing in the plan. And I think that was an area of interest for this committee when we talked about this was, when Stephanie, not to put words in your mouth, but when you brought this forward saying, hey, maybe we should have a wellness committee, I think it was more focused to this 4th goal of promoting a safe and supportive schools for all students in terms of mental health, cultural sensitivity, appreciation for all students. And if you like, I linked the plan in your background. If you go in and read the real plan, that's the smallest section of the plan. So I do think that when I reconvene the group, we'll shift that focus a little bit. I'm not saying we're going to deprioritize the other 3 goals, but maybe we put a little bit more emphasis on what's happening. And there's a lot of things happening within the district to promote safe and supportive schools. It's a core objective out of the educational blueprint that we just went over. But maybe looking at those things in terms of certainly things we've talked about: bullying prevention, counseling supports, diversity awareness opportunities, what's happening with DEI and all those types of things, and have that be more comprehensively part of the plan as a whole. because I think that was the direction the committee was looking to go. So that we'll definitely have that kind of be a focus area. Okay. Other goals, promote community and staff involvement in supporting wellness. So obviously that's certainly we want to go beyond the school district. And then maintain a district-wide wellness committee, which we did not do, but we're going to do. In terms of meet quarterly to evaluate policies and procedures, provide resources, work collaboratively with the schools, and help in coordination of professional development. And then this is kind of some of the updates that happened in the old plan. It goes back to, even if you look at the updates we put in the old plan, look at what the updates are. Addition of farm to school. Addition of employee wellness. Nutritional educational opportunities for employees. Addition of a specific section about physical education and physical education activities. Updating definition of the nutrition standards. And that's actually, those are required pieces of the plan, so we updated them. And then we talked about how we updated the nutrition standards and what happened with that. But if it goes back to, like, I kept this in from the presentation that was made 2 years ago when we went over this, because it goes back, it supports that concept of, if you look at those changes we made, it doesn't go to this promote safe and supportive schools for all students and staff. Not that these things aren't great things in terms of farm to school and physical education and physical activities and nutritional standards, but that's where we made a lot of revisions to the plan. It wasn't necessarily on that other goal of social emotional health and wellness. And we're committed to doing that and bringing the wellness committee back together. So does anyone have any questions or concerns at this time, or is this consistent with the direction that the committee was looking to go in when we had a discussion about creating a wellness plan?
Anyone?
I'm good.
I think it sounds great. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing updates
Right.
and see how
I'm
things
glad we're
develop.
continuing.
Right, so I will set up a meeting for the group hopefully in September or early October, at our first meeting of the year.
Thank you, and thank you, Jackie, for continuing to serve on it. I look forward to hearing more developments. Okay, so that brings us to upcoming events, which is just, it's getting full. Calendars are starting to fill up, people. It's, which is great. It's all good things. All good things. Right?
So I will, again, we will not read everything that's here, but I'll put it up and let people take a look at it. Obviously, the college application boot camp, if you're a senior, we certainly encourage you to do that. I will say Chris and Christina, Ms. McKenna and Ms. Nolan do a great job with this. We were one of the first districts to start implementing this, and they shared it, and now it's becoming more consistent that a lot of districts do this, but they were kind of leaders in that role, that we've been doing this for a long time, and it's a great thing for those seniors going off to apply for college. Obviously, we're excited that we're going to have a 6th and 9th grade middle school and high school new student orientation on the 23rd, and I think they talked a little bit about that in terms of the school improvement plan about how they're going to trying to build those events up, and right now we have good signups. Right now we have a good number of students who are saying they're going to participate in both the 6th grade and the 9th grade orientation. A new piece of the 6th grade orientation that Christine mentioned during the school improvement presentation in June is they're going to do a parent piece as well. So last year was they took all the 6th grade students but didn't involve the parents. This year they're going to have a 6th grade orientation, take the students, and then they're going to have a parent meeting. And Sean McGinnis is going to do a piece of the parent meeting, but then 2 of the 6th grade teachers, Dave Wechter, sorry, I lost it there for a second, and who else is going to join him? Who's joining?
Dana Knapp.
And Dana Knapp. So Dave Wechter and Dana Knapp are going to lead the parent piece of the orientation. So I think that's a nice addition to have, and they're going to talk a little bit of overview of the expectations of a 6th grader, because I think there has been a message we've heard from parents is there's concerns about that transition to 5th to 6th grade, and what does it look like to be a 6th grader? How is it different? How are the expectations different? And that's going to be the focus of the presentation by Dana and by Dave on Friday morning. So I think that's a nice piece, a nice addition that I wanted to highlight for everybody what's happening. Certainly, everybody will be back on the 26th, on Monday the 26th, and just a reminder, we're continuing this tradition. I think this is the 3rd year we've done it. They're doing back to school night on that first day of the 26th at the elementary school. So it will be meet the teacher, see your classroom, and they just found that parents were very supportive of that, and staff actually was very supportive of getting that opportunity to get in and meet that teacher prior to the start of school. Back to school night for grades 1 and 2 will be from 5:30 to 6:15 on Monday the 26th, and for grades 3 through 5 from 6:30 to 7:15. And then we'll follow that first day of school for students, 28th, 29th. Everyone has the 4 days for Labor Day, the Friday and the Monday. And then we're really into the swing of it wanting to get into September. And I will not go through everything here on September. Today was an exciting day because it was the first day of fall sports. Unless you played football can start last Friday. So everybody's out of practice, or has been out of practice today. So that's a great thing. And we're getting ready to start the school year. We're excited about it.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
Is the Carver Cares meeting at 6 o'clock on the 9th as well?
Yes,
Okay,
it's just not in there.
Okay.
It is at 6, so that one is a 6 o'clock meeting.
Okay.
So it's the same time as ours.
Yeah, I was looking, I was like, oh, I
It
was going
is-
to put it on my calendar, I'm like, it's the same time as our
It
meeting.
is the
so-
same time as our school committee
Okay,
meeting.
no problem.
Though I have talked to them, because I went to the meeting in August, about, last year, a lot of their meetings ended up being the same nights as our school committee meetings.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to adjust that. Because I would like to more actively participate as
Yeah.
well, in terms of calendars.
Yeah, that would be great. My goodness, it's coming fast and furiously.
All right, anything on upcoming events?
Nope, thank you for putting that list together. I know the calendar on the website is filling up. It's all good stuff. All good stuff. Good to see.
All right, so we're going to go to Ron now for, just give you a second
Yes, that would be great.
for final budget transfers and the financial update. It's a little bigger.
Use the microphone.
Yep, sorry about that. So you've got your financial memo as well, and this detail is in there too. What you've got in your financial memo is the end of the fourth quarter warrant. So your FY24 fourth quarter warrant, payroll and expenses is always down to the penny. You see those last payrolls and expenses sort of overlap with FY25 a little bit. That's just the final payrolls going through, the final bills coming in, obviously, for expenses. If you could scroll just to the right a little bit, Mr. Neef, on this one. Typically, I show you your transfers when we talk about final transfers. If you can go to the 24 closeout tab.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have been. And if you can go to the bottom right on that one. So typically, we go through every account. We go through all of the accounts you've got. If you can scroll to the bottom there. But this one's FY24's closeout. And so at the end of the year, what we do is we just take a look at our final accounts. We identify any accounts that are overages, any accounts that have surplus, and all we do at the end is we balance those accounts. So typically what you're seeing is expense transfers. In this case, it's budget transfers across the board. And what you've got in front of you is your final transfers for FY24. Your total budget appropriation, that's your general budget appropriation, was $22,500,218. You have expended $22,464,077.29 with $2,812 of revenue. Those are typically just things that, like, if we bought something and then it came back wrong, they give us credits back, right? That's what you're looking at there. All in, yeah, you spent the large majority of your budget, but typically you do have some amount of, it's called turnback. That's just money you haven't spent at the end of the year. In some school districts, the goal is to get right down to zero. My philosophy is we spend what we need to spend for our kiddos in schools, and then what we don't, we give back to the taxpayers. That'll ultimately be reappropriated by the Board of Selectmen and then ultimately by town meeting. So your turnback this year is just over 0.1%. It's a pretty small percentage. About $29,640.13 will ultimately be turned back to our community, reappropriated. Typically that goes to free cash. Free cash usually gets used for things like capital, one-time expenses, so other investments in the community. That ranges year to year. In some years, it really is like, a few dollars, right? Almost 0%. In other years, it's a little bit more. This year was a challenging year for us, if you remember, because we had a lot of volatility with our special education costs. We were running in the red for the large majority of FY24, but kudos to our colleagues over in special education. We put our application in for what's called extraordinary relief. It's essentially a set of money that the state puts aside as part of a circuit breaker. It says, hey, school districts, like Carver in this case, if you're really jammed up with volatile special education costs, put together some material to show us what the changes have been. If they are extraordinary, we'll give you relief, thus extraordinary relief. That relief came in about $35,000 more than anticipated, and that's roughly what your turn back is going to be this year. That'll be your closeout for FY24, and what we'll do is, as part of your financial memo in a moment, I'll show you the beginning of FY25, and you'll probably get your first set of transfers at your next meeting for FY25. I can answer any questions that you've got about ending FY24, what that closeout process looks like, what turnback looks like, but I would just ask that the committee at the end set a vote to do the turnback for $29,640.13.
Do we want to do that motion? You want to do that as a separate motion right now, just to?
If you could,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And that's not in the back.
It's not in there,
Oh,
so we're
sorry.
just gonna.
It would just be a vote to move to turn back this amount, $29,640.13 to the town of Carver.
Okay. I move that we turn back the amount of $29,640.13 to the town of Carver.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then just a question for you, Ron, do we need to do a separate vote on the actual
transfers?
themselves? Will this cover it? I put it as recommended. I gave a recommendation back on doing a vote on the transfers. Is this covered that?
I think it'd be better to do two, better to have an extra than not too many, right?
Transfers, just,
I don't know if we want to do a motion to vote on the
Yep.
transfer. Are there any transfers you want to talk about specifically in terms of the transfers?
Sure.
Or does anybody have any questions about the transfers?
Nope.
nope, they all look pretty standard to me.
Yep.
Yeah, these particular ones, the end of the year, are not specific to any one expense. They're literally just balancing your book at the close of the year.
Yep.
Okay, I move to approve the final FY24 transfers as presented this evening.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll just change gears and quickly talk about your financial update. Not a ton there either. So on your financial update, the only real news that's relative to education right now and finance is that the governor signed the budget. A little bit late, but we'll take it better late than never. A couple of highlights for you. One of the things that I thought was interesting, I guess I just haven't realized how many years it's been. It's been 14 years in a row that the state has been late on a budget, which is a little disappointing. I'm hopeful we can break that trend next year. But so what they do in the meantime, just in case you're curious, like how the sausage is made, what they do is right before the budget started, if they can't decide on the whole thing, they pass what's called a 1/12 budget. They agree on about a 12th of the cost, and they say, that'll be July. They'll take July to sort out the other 11/12ths, and so then they pass the entire budget. So just under $58 billion for the entire budget. I have some links there that if you're really bored and want to know a ton about how it's working, that gives you some information on it. I also just included some highlights for you that I thought are helpful and sort of interesting when it comes to education in general. I think the big highlight is that very first sub-bullet, which is Chapter 70. What's interesting is, again, a little context. So Chapter 70 has this law as part of it. It's called the Student Opportunity Act. It essentially says over the next 7 years, we're in year 4, that the state is going to invest more in education to sort of catch education up in investment, right? Over the past couple of years, we've found that about 2/3 of all districts in the Commonwealth don't actually qualify for a lot of impact on that Student Opportunity Act. So they get what's called minimum aid. It's been about $30 a kiddo, which is great to have something because for 2/3 of our communities, they would have otherwise gotten nothing. So yay for that. But $30 a kiddo is not a lot when you're talking multi-million-dollar budgets. So the past couple of years, albeit at the 11th hour, state representatives and senators and the governor have come together and agreed on a number that's larger than that. Full disclosure, our community continues to still budget at 30 because we want to be conservative. Again, they've been late for 14 years in a row, so their budget comes after we set our budgets. But I'm hopeful that that is like an indicator that the state might have some appetite to more permanently change that figure, which would be super beneficial for Carver and frankly beneficial for the large majority of communities across the Commonwealth. It costs more money, so that's the obvious sort of drawback from a state perspective. But that one was, I thought, that made me feel optimistic about the state budget process. You can read through the others. The only one I want to share with you that'll be interesting is that very last bullet. Again, this is like high density stuff, but if you go down to the very bottom, sort of related to the state budget, on that next page, you'll see that Mass Budget and Policy Center actually did this really interesting analysis. Here's the cliff notes on it if you're not interested in reading through it, but essentially they said, hey, that Student Opportunity Act that everyone was going to get that was supposed to increase funding for schools in the Commonwealth, that's super, but we've been hit with all this inflation nationwide, right? Companies are charging a lot more for stuff. So while you're getting some more money in your Student Opportunity Act, $104 for us in Carver per kiddo, it goes less far because everything costs more. Employees cost more, pens and paper cost more, et cetera, et cetera. So what they said was, wouldn't it be great if the Commonwealth came together and like made an adjustment in the Student Opportunity Act that accounted for inflation? And they figured out the cost of that and how much each district could get if the state agreed to sort of increase Chapter 70 commensurate with what inflation is. So I took a look at Carver. If they were to ever pass something like that, Carver would get the better part of $188,000 as a community. So across the entire community per year in Chapter 70, that's big dollars for a little community like ours. It's a wonderful opportunity for advocacy. I want to be upfront with you. That last sentence I think is also important because it's the balance to all these things. If they were to do it, it would cost the state the better part of $500 million, which is a pretty substantial increase in sort of the state scale of budget. But kudos to Mass Budget and Policy. I thought that was a thoughtful exercise and analysis that they did, especially given that the inflationary impact has been very real for every organization, school departments, and towns included. So some more detail there if you're interested to dig in.
The only thing I would add to that is that that's been a focus of the superintendent's group, and I think MASC as well, both things that Ron highlighted here. First is that, the SOA, and we've talked about this many times, there's a lot of held harmless districts who are receiving the minimum aid. And since such a large percentage of districts are receiving only that minimum aid, that they need to increase that number. And the number they've been using is at least $100 a student, has been the advocacy point. And, it was 104 this year. And then that we need to make adjustments for inflation. And so those have been the two focus areas from both the Mass Association of School Superintendents and the Mass Association of School Committees. So they are taking up that advocacy along those 2 points.
And maybe, whether or not they get to this exact number, I don't know, but maybe between some collaborative work amongst the advocacy groups and amongst Beacon Hill, maybe there's some middle ground that's tenable for the state to handle, but also ameliorate, some of the impact of this inflationary spike that we see in the business office every day. Everything just costs a whole lot more, right? So more to come on that, hopefully. Last item for you is your FY25 grant awards. Kudos to Dr. Erickson. Thanks to her work and her collaboration with our science department, Carver Public Schools has been awarded $47,523 from the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center for some STEM equipment and professional development. That'll help support the biotechnology pathway. So we have that on the way. And then we talked about your warrants there. I think I just request we have a vote to accept the award on the state grant appropriation.
And also the warrant.
The warrants, yeah.
And the warrant.
Okay. Before we do that, we want to do a quick reminder, because it is in here, but we kind of skipped over it, that we are continuing the Universal School Meals Program this year. So for parents out there, just to let you know, we are. So that's a good thing all around.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm so glad the state was
I
able
am
to get
too.
it done.
Very happy about that.
Definitely.
It's a good thing. So just a reminder for parents.
Yes.
If they're listening, they're probably not, but that's okay.
Right?
They'll find out next week.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to move to approve the FY24 fourth quarter and the FY24 first quarter warrants. FY25 first quarter warrants, oh God. and the acceptance of the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center for STEM grant in the amount of $47,523.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for all that information.
Thank you, guys.
I'm so excited to see that there is some collaboration on Beacon Hill, and there are some really, really good discussions around how they can, help supplement school budgets with inflation and sped costs.
That'd be huge.
Yeah, it's really great to see such active, fruitful conversations and collaborations happening. So it's lovely to see. And thank you to Dr. Arison for the grant and for everyone that was involved in getting those funds. We always love to see the grant money coming in, so can't wait to see what they're going to do with it. Okay, so it looks like we have disposition of surplus materials and equipment.
We've got one more
Next.
item from me. So you've got a memo there that's outlining some disposition of some surplus equipment, and if the committee approves them, we'll go through a process. But let me give you a quick walkthrough. So your policy DN, which is called the School Properties Disposition, as part of your policy handbook, essentially allows the committee to identify any equipment or materials that are otherwise not being utilized by school department to be considered surplus. And if they are surplus, allows the business office to go through a process to try to either A, get money for those things, so sell them, right? Or B, if you're not able to sell them, if there's no buyers for that particular set of equipment, to either donate them to, could be schools, nonprofits, those sorts of things. And if there's still no takers for donation, then ultimately those equipment, those supplies would be disposed of. But we typically go through that process of try to get some money back for it, try to donate to others who may find use for it before we have to dispose of anything. And so we're recommending the following items as surplus right now. There's a set of food service items and a set of mathematics curriculum. I'll start with the food service items. So food service has some transportation carts that were actually purchased just in the pandemic. They're designed to essentially do catering, to move hot food to and from a place and keep it hot, right? You see 6 Cambro insulated, non-electric, ultra ambient food cart, transport carts, and then 4 that are similar, top heat only for that second set. They were purchased with the intent of trying to move around food from where we cook our food to classrooms. If you remember back when the pandemic first started, there was discussion of like, should the kiddos eat in a classroom? Should they eat individually, right? And so all this equipment was purchased with COVID funds to try to prepare for those eventualities. Ultimately, we don't have that scenario right now, and so we've got this really big sets of equipment sitting in our food service areas. It's collecting dust, holds up a lot of space for our food service staff. And we think we might be able to get some takers from the private sector who may ultimately want to utilize these, right? Catering companies, those sorts of things. So if the committee were to deem these as surplus, our first go would be to try to see if we can't sell these to some private organizations. The second set of equipment and materials are Bridges math workbooks, and I've got a full list on that second page for you. As Dr. Erickson mentioned, the school department is transitioning to this Bridges programs, and we're going from the second edition workbooks to this next edition, this third edition. It's been this like continuous rollout over the next couple of years, and so at this time, we have identified there's not really a secondary market for the equipment because everybody is going to this next edition. However, kudos to our colleagues at the elementary school. Our math coordinator has some colleagues over in Marshfield and Cohasset who are still on the second edition and could benefit from the materials and equipment that we have here. So my thinking on this one would be, due to the fact that there's not a real secondary market, this would probably be a donation to a fellow set of educators just a few miles up the road. I can answer any questions that you'd have about them, and if you're comfortable deeming them surplus, we just require a vote from the committee to do so.
Where do we do with the money once we receive it?
It typically goes back to the fund, and so in this case, the funds would have been COVID funds, so we'd have to work with the auditors on how we'd appropriate those funds. Would it end up going back to the state government? Is that something that we could use here locally? We'd have to sort that out with them, and I'd take guidance from them on that.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay. I move to deem the food service transportation carts and the Bridges math workbooks be deemed as surplus.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
good.
very much for the
Yes.
detailed information. And then it looks like we have an acceptance of a donation.
Yep, so we had a member of the community, Kyle Fitzgerald, reached out about donating some AV technology and equipment to the district. We got him in touch with Stephen Mahoney, our IT director, and Stephen said this list of things you see before us are the things that the district could use. So we have taken those in, and now we're looking for a formal acceptance of the donation of these, of this AV equipment tonight by the school committee.
Okay. I move to approve the acceptance of the donation of AV equipment from Kyle Fitzgerald as presented this evening.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Thank you.
And we'll put together a formal letter
Okay.
acknowledging and thanking him for his
Great.
donation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to Mr. Fitzgerald. It's very generous. Okay, so that brings us to reports from the school committee. So one thing I wanted to discuss as a group was potentially naming alternates to subcommittees. I know we ran into this issue a few years ago with policy where I couldn't make a meeting, the meeting continued. There were some issues around that. And other districts do this in case someone gets sick or something happens and someone can't make a meeting and you have someone from outside the district still attending, that person can tag in their place. And it will be, public information approved by the committee, that would be the process. So I wanted to start that discussion with the committee to see how everyone felt about that. We wouldn't necessarily have to make those decisions tonight, but I thought that would be something we should explore in case, again, something like that happens. So we can have a means to hopefully still have that meeting take place. I mean, if it's half an hour before the meeting, as it was in my case, there was really nothing I could do at that point. I was sick and I couldn't go. So hopefully that won't happen to anyone. But it was just something that came up at the MASC Summer Institute that some other districts were talking about. And I was like, oh, you know what? That would have been helpful had we done that. So I wanted to bring it forward. So I'm not sure if everyone wants to think about it or if it's something that you want to put together tonight. We certainly don't have to.
How are they doing it in the different districts? Do they have one person that is a go-to first? And then like
Some
a
of them
second?
have like one person that covers everything, and then others have different people. I think it would make more sense to break it out into to different people. That way it isn't all in one person to show up to. I mean, granted, we very rarely have subcommittees meet on the same day. I think we're pretty good about spacing the meetings out. So I guess, to me, it would make sense to have someone look to be an alternate for something they're interested in doing. So like say if, for a policy, if there's someone other than Kelly and I that's interested in policy, would you want to be the alternate in case one of us couldn't make it to that meeting? Or, same with the superintendent evaluation or student advisory or the athletic policy subcommittee. Like capital outlay, it wouldn't necessarily make sense. But if Jackie's reporting back to the committee with how those meetings are going on a regular basis, someone could show, someone could participate if you weren't able to. So I wanted to really just start that discussion with the committee so everyone can kind of think about it, see what makes sense for our needs. Because, life happens and things come up, and if something goes awry, I would rather see us have an opportunity to continue moving the work forward versus having to reschedule. So
this alternate, though, wouldn't be able to attend the subcommittee meetings regularly.
correct.
So it would be potentially difficult to jump in on a meeting and be helpful, right?
Well, when we've had our subcommittee meetings in the past, like I can speak to in terms of policy, everything that we work on in policy comes to the school committee. So eventually, so what we would have the policies that we were working on, so we would have documentation we'd be able to share.
Sure.
So that people you could see it. I don't think that there would be, I can't imagine there being any major decisions that a subcommittee would make. As anything that a subcommittee brings forward to the full committee, we all have to agree on. So that's why I thought I would just bring up the concept and see what everyone thought, so everyone could kind of think about it, and maybe when we come back in September, see what
And like
everyone's
you
thoughts
said, maybe it
are
would
moving
make
forward.
sense for some committees and not.
Yeah, and it might make
You go
sense
for
for
what
some
you
and not
say
for
is-
others.
right.
So I wanted to just bring the concept forward for everyone to think about. because I know we're not doing, a heavy lift of 10 months' worth of policy work right now. But I know there will be some changes coming up that we'll have to look at. So that was just a concept that I wanted to introduce.
Do you, go ahead, Jake.
Can I just see that on this here, it says food services, it says Colleen. Next to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that should change. That's just a mistake.
That's okay, I was just,
Yep.
but who's with me, I don't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head right
That's
now
all right.
either. But we'll-
I think it's
Bill.
Bill, right?
Bill's
name.
I think it's Bill.
Oh, yeah. Sorry
Bill and
to
Jack.
interrupt, but that just,
No,
my eyes
absolutely.
went right to it.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely.
Where were we?
Right, so I just wanted to bring that concept forward to the school committee, so if you wanted to do some research or have some discussions and think about what might work for us,
Sure.
maybe we can adopt that.
Do you want me to bring it back as an agenda item for
September?
September 9th?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Or do you want the 20th? Do you want more time? Because the 9th is kind of soon.
No?
No, it's okay?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
And then
So
we can-
yes,
And we can just go, I'll put it on as an agenda item and we'll can make decisions where and when you want to do that.
yep, that would be great. And same with our school committee goals, where we didn't have a retreat this year. This is something that we worked on that the last time we did that, but I think as Mr. Neef will be presenting his and updating his, I think we should do the same. So if everyone could please go through them, make notes, make suggestions, and then we can also hopefully vote on those at our next meeting, if not the second meeting in September, depending upon people's feelings. So I'd like to see, obviously making sure that our changes are aligned with the educational blueprint and some of the work that's going to be done, like the wellness committee, those types of things. So that was something else I wanted to bring up for everyone's consideration, and I'm trying not to be too long-winded. Oh my goodness, sorry, I just closed my background agenda by mistake. All right, so
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
the last item I just wanted to briefly bring up was the MASC, MASS Joint Conference in November, which is absolutely crazy how quickly it's going to be here. They've sent out mailers and I think some emails. But if anyone wants to go, let me know. And I can talk to MASC about attendance. Make sure everyone has tickets. They'll be putting out more information soon. But do they have information? I don't think they have information up about the keynote speaker yet.
They have some
I don't think that's
featured
on there.
sessions.
Right?
There's some keynote featured sessions.
Yeah, it's on the second
on
page
the
here.
Second page.
Deshaun
Okay,
Washington.
okay,
last
I
picture of
wasn't,
the
I
year.
wasn't sure if they announced his name or not yet, so.
Tim Shriver. Yep.
Yeah, so it's great that, the interim commissioner from DESI, Russell Johnston's going to attend and speak. And then Tim Shriver is someone that a lot of people are very excited to see. So I had mentioned to Scott that if anyone on the alt team or if anyone wanted to attend that as well, to please let me know. It's always great to have the opportunity to meet other people in other districts across the state, learn best practices, share ideas. So I've found it valuable for the years that I've been attending. And I think it's just going to continue to grow and get more exciting.
I know the last couple of years we had talked about doing one of the dinners
Yep.
as a group, as many people could make it. I don't know if there's a dinner I don't know if you have a dinner recommendation, Stephanie.
This week is always tough because
Yeah, I know it's a busy week, plus it's a
I'm usually away that
holiday week. There's the keynote dinner on Wednesday, and then the awards dinner was on Thursday, and then there's the banquet Friday night. So I'm not sure what works for everyone else. I will be there for the entirety of the conference. And one thing that we'll also discuss in September is we need to vote a delegate to vote at the delegate assembly that's on Friday. So we need to do that as well. That form is due back in October.
I'm going to be going too.
So,
So if you needed, does a delegate have to be there?
yeah, there's a delegate and then an alternate. Um,
I was at last year, I remember.
Yep. So we'll need to vote that, and I didn't have it added to the agenda tonight, because again, I wanted to bring it up, so everyone could have an opportunity to read about the process, to see if it's something you'd like to experience. I'll be there either way. And it's always a good experience.
Yeah.
So I know it's difficult, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I know it can be challenging because people work.
Maybe on Friday, we could all be there for the dinner, because it's 6:30. Might be a little bit easier for people to get there, potentially, Bill?
I'm not, I'm
Can
traveling.
you go? Kate?
I can't
Kate.
say at this
My
point
name's
because
Kate.
my company meeting is usually that week and it's always
Yeah.
someplace where I have to fly to. So I would be flying home on that 9th if they choose to have it, which I have not heard yet. So I won't know for another few weeks.
Well, we have some time to figure it out.
But I will certainly go to the dinner.
But if anyone
If I'm here.
would like to go, let me
If
know.
I'm here, I will.
Yeah, and we can assist you in registering too, so
Okay.
is there any day, or anything you'd like to go to, just let Gina and I know, and we
Yes.
will register you.
Yeah, you won't need to register me, Gina, as I am Chair of Division 7. I will also be the Secretary Treasurer for MASC, effective in January. So I will be registered directly through MASC. So there is that, and then there is some other PD that'll be forthcoming, so I'll share information as it comes along. October is CUBE in Las Vegas, which is tough for people to also attend. But then there's the National Convention in April. So that's in Atlanta. So lots of travel on my calendar. But I will bring back as much information as I can to share with everyone and with the district, and continue to send opportunities as they come up. So that is that. So quickly, I just want to say, I wish everyone, hope everyone enjoys their last week of summer. Good luck to everyone that's starting next week, and have a great school year. So if anyone has anything they'd like to add, feel free. Otherwise, if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn, feel free.
I move that we adjourn the August 19th, 2024 open session of the school committee.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any
Do we
discussion?
need to schedule a date for a building tour?
Oh, did we,
We're going to do that after.
was that on here?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, it is at the bottom.
It doesn't matter either way, we have that discussion.
Yeah, that's
now.
that's administrative, so it's okay if
Yeah.
we do that outside of our meeting, but thank you for making that point.
It's fine, we can.
Okay,
Since
does
you brought it
everyone
up.
want to try to take it? Well, we can
Since
do
you
it
brought it
now.
up,
Does
we
everyone
don't
want
want-
to
we don't wanna leave
look at their
any-
calendars
we don't-
now and
yeah,
see if
so-
we can find a date that works for everyone?
Yeah, so our policy does call for the
Oh,
school
it has to be
committee.
before next Wednesday.
Yeah, before students
Preferably.
start, preferably. And unfortunately, my schedule is a little limited. I can do Thursday evening.
This Thursday?
I can do, and then I could do Tuesday, which would be the day before school started, that Tuesday night.
I cannot do that Tuesday.
And, I mean, I don't know if everybody, I don't know if everybody really wants to do Friday, but I could do Friday too. So I
Are you
do,
looking at the, in the,
whatever works best for you. I mean, we could do it during the day, but I don't know if that's realistic. with
No,
people's
probably
schedules.
not.
Yeah, so probably, I was thinking
I'm
after
on
5.
vacation the next 3 days.
I was thinking
or
after 5
Wednesday.
o'clock. I was thinking after 5 o'clock. Yeah.
I could actually do Friday because I'm going to be there anyway. They're going to be practicing, so. But
I can do Thursday or Friday.
I could do Thursday too.
I can do Thursday or Friday.
Thursday's
What about
Thursday or
Thursday's okay?
Friday is fine.
Katie, what works for you?
I think Friday is better, I think. Hold on. I'm supposed to go. Friday is better for me, yeah.
I can do Friday.
I
All
won't
right,
be-
so
I won't
can
be
we-
around on Thursday.
I can even
So,
do it a little early.
Friday, the 23rd, right?
yes.
This Friday?
So what time is best for everyone? Is 5:30 okay?
Yeah.
Could do that.
5:30 good? Okay.
How long do we think it's
Where
going
do
to
we want to start? It usually takes about half hour, 45 minutes to go through each building.
Yeah, I think we started at the elementary
take?
school
If we
last
start
year,
at the
right?
elementary school, I can get back to the middle school for the end of practice and just do,
Okay,
because she'll be at the
Is
middle.
5, can people do 5 or is 5:32?
I can
Maybe
do 5.
5:15.
Oh, well, we'll say 5:30 then. We'll just, we don't want you rushing.
okay.
So if 5:30 is there, people can do, that's fine.
I will meet at the elementary school?
Elementary school,
All right.
5:30.
5:30.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Elementary school, 5:30.
Elementary school, 5:30, and then we'll go through the elementary school inside and out, and then we'll go into the high school and go through inside and
All
out.
right, perfect.
Okay, great. So would someone like to make a motion to adjourn again? Just
Yes.
to be-
I move that we adjourn the August 19th, 2024 open session of the Carver School Committee.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.